South African Human Rights Commission has written to the Basic Education Minister asking her to reconsider the 1st of June as a return date for grade 7s and grade 12 pupils. The Commission says it's worrying that many schools haven't achieved the required readiness to receive pupils. Its provincial offices have highlighted the shortage of water and sanitation as well as personal protective equipment. In addition, governing bodies informed the Commission that about 3,500 schools still don't have access to water. To start us off this hour, let's discuss this further now with the South African Human Rights Commission Commissioner, Andre Gaum. Andre, good evening and thank you for your time.
Good evening. Thank you very much.
What is the suggestion from the South African Human Rights Commission on how the Department of Basic Education should approach the reopening?
Yes, the Commission has monitored schools across the country, and our view is, in view of that monitoring and also in view of our consultation with various stakeholders, that the reopening of schools should not happen on the 1st of June, and that we should give more time to schools to be ready in terms of receiving learners. It is quite clear to us that too many schools in our country don't have the PPEs that are required, don't have the necessary water and sanitation provisioning, and therefore our view is that schools should not be reopened on the 1st of June, and that we should give at least another week for schools to be able to be in the position to receive learners.
So the Minister had said in her announcing the reopening of the schools on the 1st of June about 2 weeks ago that it will be on a just-in-time principle. So PPEs will be delivered just in time for the reopening. Are you not afraid that you're jumping the gun? Because I suppose just in time would still mean even on Sunday they could have delivered those PPEs.
Now our view is that the position across the country is that PPEs won't be delivered just in time, and that is our assessment on the basis of both our consultations with key stakeholders as well as our view in terms of what we ourselves has monitored, and therefore we believe that the 1st of June is not the best opportunity for schools to reopen, and that we should wait. And that is what we have put forward to the Minister.
So, I mean, are you saying the provinces are underreporting or misreporting at this particular point? Because you have, for example, the MEC for Education in KwaZulu-Natal saying schools are ready to open. In fact, he says PPEs have been delivered to all the schools in the province.
Yes, for example, the Northern Cape province has announced today that their schools would only open within a week on the 8th of this month. And on the basis of that alone, it does appear that schools are not able to reopen across the country. And so, what provinces are saying and what is the position on the ground sometimes and at grassroots level sometimes appears to be different. So our assessment in terms of our own monitoring and in terms of what stakeholders have been telling us is that this is not a good time for schools to be open, for all schools to be open. I mean, we can't start differentiating between schools and say that these schools can open, those can't, and then putting some learners at a major disadvantage. That wouldn't be appropriate, that wouldn't be constitutional. So what we are saying is that it seems that schools still need some time to get in place what needs to be in place to be reopening.
What do you take of the approach that the minister, or her attitude towards, for example, schools in the Western Cape, who she has admitted that not all of them will open, but she says the reopening still continues on the 1st of June. I suppose the other schools will kind of play catch-up as and when they are ready.
We are quite concerned about that kind of approach because, you know, if you have some schools, mostly in the more affluent areas opening and others in the less affluent areas not opening, then we have a situation of exacerbating the inequalities in our country to a very large extent. We are concerned as well about the situation at present, where there are some parents who have access to e-learning facilities via the internet and so on, and others who simply don't have that. I mean, I can give you an example from my own personal experience. In my home, we have access to the internet, and my kids receive education through that means. But I have someone that I know very well and trust a lot, and is someone who works in my garden, and someone who also sometimes do some painting work for me. His name is Trust, and he's very trustworthy. And in his case, his children are simply at home without any education. So the inequalities have been exacerbated tremendously by COVID-19, and that is what we as the Human Rights Commission is also being very concerned about. And these matters need to be addressed. So we can't have a situation of some affluent schools reopening and others not reopening, and we have a situation of some learners in our country being kept behind and being in a very unfortunate situation for many months, and others returning to school. That is at the essence of the debate of
Andre, except for the glaring digital divide which you are pointing out, especially with your situation and Trust, talk to me about the bare necessities, like a situation like water and sanitation. I mean, in terms of your monitoring, what have you found? Is there an adequate supply of that? And I mean, if you give the minister another week, will she be able to provide to those 3,500 schools that you're saying today still don't have adequate water?
The issue you are mentioning now is a very pertinent issue. I mean, our country has too many schools without water, without sanitation. And this is most probably the opportunity also to address that. But the fact is, how can you, in the COVID-19 crisis that we're experiencing, having so many schools without access to running water? That is one of the core elements of addressing the COVID-19 issue. You need to wash your hands, you need to have access to soap or sanitizer, whatever the case may be. So we really urge government to double up the efforts in addressing the issues, especially of water and sanitation in schools right now. But, you know, in terms of what schools are facing at the moment, and in terms of the number of schools that don't even have the basic necessities to deal with the COVID-19 issue, we believe that we need to postpone the opening of schools.